Paul Harrell, weekdays from 4 to 6. Learn more at paulharrell.com.
The program, we've got Fort Smith attorney Mr. Joey McCutchen is back with us. Joey, thanks for being on the program.
Hey, Paul, good to be back. Thanks.
Yes, sir. Hey, can I get your comments on Senator Jake Files? I mean, this is ridiculous. I've been calling. I know I want to talk about FOIA, but I've been calling for his resignation for the last several months. And Governor Hutchinson, as well as the Arkansas GOP, are not calling for his resignation. What are your thoughts?
My thoughts is that Senator Files needs to resign. And I say that for a couple of reasons. Some of them are very obvious. The first problem that I have is that Senator Files is my senator, and he will not meet with me to discuss what's going on here, because I think he owes us answers in all transparency, and that's part of the discussion we're going to have today. He owes us honesty and openness, and he will not discuss with me. For example, one of the things I want to discuss with him, Paul, it's not just the gift money, the $25,000 gift money that apparently went to his personal use, but I want to talk to him about the $80,000 that he received from David Norsworthy, who is a nursing home lobbyist in Little Rock, about 5 days after the nursing home lobby had a bill filed that would put a price tag on human life of $500,000. Is that a gift? Is that a loan? Because we know that Senator Files took another $30,000 loan about 6 months or so, or a year before that, from Bruce Hawkins, $30,000. He called it a loan.
Yeah.
The perception is that that's a bribe. And that's serious. And so I think that the GOP needs to call on Senator Files to resign. I think it gives a bad name to other representatives, other senators. I think representatives need to call on him.
Absolutely.
Do the right thing and call on him to resign.
Absolutely. I'm so glad to hear you say that. My fear is, though, this is being orchestrated. Because, see, I have sources, and my sources tell me that Jake Files is going to resign, but he's going to do it when there will be no special election, so that State Representative Matt Pitch will still be able to run for that seat in 2018. Now, the issue with that is the fact that we've got a fiscal session that's coming up next year. And if he resigns, essentially the people of District 8, your people, the district that you're with, Joey, you guys are going to have no representation. And even if he doesn't resign, he doesn't need to be down there voting at this point. I mean, the amount of political leverage with his debts, the liens, the lawsuits, the $80,000 loan, the $30,000 loan, taking the $25,000 for personal use. I mean, this guy doesn't need to be voting on behalf of anybody.
No, and I've given Senator Files the benefit of the doubt for a long time, but it's past that now. Just the lack of sincerity of his most recent post, where he states that, this is old news. Well, it may be old news, but it's disgusting news. And I think leadership requires that. I think Representative Matt Pitch ought to call for his resignation.
Yeah.
Representative Pitch was recruiting candidates, and Representative Pitch announced for that Senate seat before the public even knew that Senator Files was not running again. So there's some insider ball play in there.
Yeah.
And so let's just do the right thing. But he's ineffective. He's a lame duck, and the people in my Senate district have no representation at this point, because he's been told by his lawyers in a civil suit last week. I've read the deposition. His lawyer, Gunnar DeLay, who is the Republican county chairman, told him to take the Fifth.
Yeah, why do you think that? Why do you think he in a civil case took the Fifth Amendment?
Because he knew he was going to get asked questions that would incriminate him. And is my guess. But I think that in alone is very revealing that he's taken the Fifth Amendment in a civil suit.
It's really strange. Very, very strange. We're talking with Joey McCutchen. He's an attorney in Fort Smith. And, with all the Jake Files fallout, Joey here is a Freedom of Information Act defender and buff, and he's always you're advocating for transparency, and I really appreciate that. And I hear that you've now got another suit with the city of Fort Smith. Is this the second one? And tell us more about this. It has to do with emails, right?
Yeah, we had a transparency suit against the Fort Smith School Board, which Judge Tabor in early June 13th, granted a summary judgment in our favor, stating that the secret emails that the school board was in which they elected their slate of officers was a violation of FOIA. And then shortly after that, I find that the city, I actually FOIA'd other documents, and I found a series of documents on this issue involving the Civil Service Commission in Fort Smith, in which our city board of directors did exactly the same thing. They're discussing public business that's likely to come before the city board on a private email chain, on a secret email chain. And in my opinion, a clear violation of FOIA, just like Judge Tabor found in the last case. To save the taxpayers' money, I sent them a settlement agreement. and I gave them time. Their lawyer called, wanted additional time. I gave them the additional time. But in the meantime, I was like, I wonder if they're discussing this settlement agreement through secret email. So I FOIA the document. Lo and behold, the exact same thing occurred. And in fact, one of the emails reads, Director Law said, so to all other than Carl, he's the city administrator, close your eyes, and to Carl, I do not want to settle or admit guilt. I mean, he's telling, in effect, he knows he's violating FOIA, so he's telling the other city directors to close their eyes. Wow. And then we have another city director in his vote, Mike Lorenz. He says, I'm simply providing my opinion in this matter, so feel free to stop reading at this point and delete this email if you do not want to see my opinion. I mean, that's just thumbing your nose at the Freedom of Information Act. Now, they both go on to say that they're tired of Joey McCutchen and they don't want to be my advertising firm. I don't want them to be my advertising firm either. I just want them to do their business in board meetings and not in secret emails.
Yeah, I think that's exactly right. I mean, and yet I bet there are, I know there are city officials listening to this program right now all across the state that probably are thinking to themselves, uh-oh, I bet this is happening everywhere, Joey.
It is. I'm certain that it's happening across the state. I just think that there's no accountability. And which brings us to another point, what happened in the Republican legislature. I mean, Winthrop Rockefeller, who was the Republican government in a Democratic legislature, in 1967 passed the FOIA law. And we had a group of Republicans in this last legislative session who wanted to turn our FOIA law, gut it from the strongest in the country, which in one fell swoop, which would have made it the weakest in the country, due to an exception whereby they would create a attorney privilege exception. What would have happened is they would have included their lawyer in a CC, and they would have claimed attorney-client privilege, and we would never get documents. We would never get documents again, Paul.
I know.
And it's scary. It's scary what's happening in a Republican legislature. I mean, I'm a Republican. I'm a conservative, and I just don't get it. You know, that's the only way. That's one of the ways that we hold government accountable.
Mm-hmm.
The other way is the right to trial by jury, as you know I'm also passionate about.
Absolutely.
And not only do they want to gut FOIA, which holds politicians and government accountable, they want to gut our Constitution, our right to trial by jury also. And I just don't get it. I mean, we're a party. That's one of our premises. That's one of our foundations as conservatives is accountability. And we're trying to gut it at every level.
Let me ask you this, Joey, because the Family Council scored that bill. They were against it. And the Republican establishment, they didn't get good scores on the Family Council scorecard. I mean, they are literally, in some cases, dizzy from talking bad about it, talking bad about Family Council Now, which is a socially conservative group. And we have the Senate Majority Leader Jim Hendren now calling, because of that scorecard and others, he's now wanting these organizations to have to disclose their donors, which is really frightening to me. Again, back to this whole transparency thing. Transparency's for government, privacy's for citizens. They don't seem to get this. And I'm wondering, in the context of all of this, if you might give us maybe an update on your suing Ecclesia College, if there's an update on that, because specifically with Jake Files, I mean, this is another example of general improvement funds being such a temptation and really easy for them to enrich themselves on the public's back. And, of course, I feel like the Ecclesia situation with John Woods and Mike Neal and everything else, that involved general improvement funds, a little bit more clever laundering scheme than what Jake Files was doing. But can you give us an update on anything that's going on with that?
I can, and I'm glad you brought up Family Council. Yeah, Republicans, they understand that Jerry Cox with the Family Council, he is the conscience of the Christian community. And when he gives these legislators a C, for example, when they vote to pass out SJR 8, the tort reform bill, Jerry Cox gave them a C, some of them a C, because Jerry understands that we've got to value life both in the womb. We've got to value the life of a child. We've got to value the life of a stay-at-home mom. We've got to value the life of folks in the nursing home. And so, I mean, I hear that they're threatening Jerry Cox. Oh, we need a new Family Council. Oh, find somebody else to bring your bills. That's just not right.
It's petty.
And,
I thought, yeah, and that you're exactly right. I've heard the same thing, and it's a shame that their principles are, that they were just carrying pro-life bills for accolades and for getting good scores. Now that they haven't gotten good scores because of how they voted, and because of the interest of a private organization just telling the people what their interests are and how people voted, is really shameful, and it really shows that a lot of these people are essentially, they've got thin skin, and it's like high school never ended for some of these people.
Yeah, that's exactly right. And I mean, Rose Mims of Arkansas Right to Life, same type of threats, because Rose is against SJR 8, which would put a price tag on the value of human life. On to Ecclesia, I know you want to talk about that. We are in the process of asking the court to set that for a hearing. When you take $700,000 of taxpayer money, a private college, now they've claimed in their pleadings that they're actually a church and not a college, which was beyond me. But we're asking. This is the open records part. They don't want to give us the records. And you got to ask yourself, why are they fighting so hard to keep these records sealed after they take $700,000 of taxpayer money from, again, some of the same conservative senators? For example, Senator Hester, Representative Ballinger, who has announced that he is running against Brian King for state senator. Representative Ballinger is partners with Travis Story, who is defending this lawsuit. Representative Ballinger gave money to Ecclesia. So what are they trying to hide? I mean, all we want is a little transparency. Just show us the document. And
it's because
they don't want to do that.
Yeah,
So
they're saying we're a private school, we don't have to give it, and you're saying no, you took public money, so the public needs to know what you did with it. And now they're saying, well, we're actually a church, and so we're now using religious protections, and then you say, because I know you've argued this, well, if you're a church, then we're in violation of the Arkansas Constitution because we can't give public money to a church.
That's right. And the problem that I have with a lot of these issues is with regard to our Constitution, we can't pick and choose which part of the Constitution we like today, which part of the Constitution we like tomorrow. We have a Constitution, and we have an extremely stout Article 2, which is our Declaration of Rights, which if you look at the Bill of Rights on the federal level, Arkansas's Bill of Rights in Article 2 is stout. But, again, it's under attack, and there's nothing more important than the Bill of Rights. I mean, we saw folks who understood that when our Constitution was passed, and some of them walked because it did not protect our individual liberties. And Paul, it's just like your preamble to your show says, we've got to fight for our liberty because we get incrementalized to death. We lose a right here, we lose a right there. Next thing you know, you turn around, you ain't got no right.
Mm-hmm. That's exactly right. Joey McCutchen, Fort Smith attorney, I appreciate it. It's always enlightening to have you on, and I appreciate what you said about Jake Files. He needs to resign. The governor needs to do the right thing here, and if that means he might take a political loss, then fine. Same with the Arkansas GOP. The right thing has to be done, and Joey, I appreciate it, sir. We'll do it again soon.
I appreciate you, and thanks for having me.
All righty. Folks, the Liberty Machine rolls on back in just a moment.